Welcome back to another episode. I'm Monica Verga Alborno, and this is the WandHERwild Podcast, a space for modern mothers reclaiming their wild, living with intention, and redefining what it means to feel fulfilled while raising a family. Here we explore mindful motherhood, conscious parenting, feminine rhythms, and the power of self-discovery. Guided by curiosity, we share honest stories, soulful conversations, and actionable steps you can weave into your full everyday lives. Pat, but I've been following your work for a while, your podcast, and also your Substack. I always enjoy reading and listening to your content, and it just feels like it comes from such a heartful place that I had to reach out to you because I know you've got some wonderful things to share with our listeners. So thank you so much for doing this. And I also kind of was digging around. I don't think you do like a ton of interviews anymore.
I don't.
So I'm very honored that you said yes, because I'm like, she really doesn't do too much anymore.
I know.
With interviewing.
Well, I'm a month out from having a baby, so I'm officially a no to any requests, but I was like, I want to talk to you. So
cool.
Yeah.
I just get these weird feelings to connect with people sometimes, and I don't really have it's just like this little inner knowing that someone that listens to the WandHERwild podcast needs to find out about you, I guess. So
Well, thank you.
Yeah, here we are.
Yeah.
How are you feeling? How many weeks? When's your due date?
I'm due in early April. Yeah, we're recording this early March, so I got about a month. We'll see. And I'm doing okay. Last time I was pregnant was the pandemic, shut down times. Since then, I've completely changed my life, moved from California to a farm in upstate New York, and I'm 40 and I'm looking out over snow and I'm just like, wow, my life has changed so much. Yeah, babies, I believe babies come in these big catalyzing moments. So I'm just trying to get quiet and be like, what is here for me? What is this threshold I'm moving across once more?
I love that. Yeah, our daughters are around the same age. My daughter's also 5. She's a pandemic baby. So
Oh, wow. Yeah, we went through a thing.
Mm.
We did a thing. That was intense, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I want to share with anyone listening a little bit about you. I'm not going to read off everything about you because we'll untangle some things as we go, but I was kind of looking through a couple of things I want to share. So you are Becca Piastrelli, for anyone listening who hasn't heard of you before. And you have had a podcast for over a decade, for a while now.
I don't even know.
I think so.
A long time.
It's been a while. And then you also have a Substack. And you really talk a lot about seasonal living, revillaging, rituals, bringing women together in circle, community. And you are living on a regenerative farm right now that you are rebuilding and really reworking on the different old farmhouses that are on property. And as you mentioned, you took this huge leap of change in your life from moving from the West Coast to the East Coast, and you are in Hudson Valley, New York now, which I guess was one of the reasons I was drawn to you, is because we host mom and child retreats in Hudson Valley, New York as well. So we're kind of your neighbors parts of the year, near Kerhunks in New York. So it's been nice to see that you're there, and we can dig into it a little bit more. But actually, my very first question for you is, I'm really fascinated by why people are drawn to certain locations. I'm from New Jersey, but I'm in Bergen, Norway now. Never did I think in my life I'm going to live in Bergen, Norway. I did not even know where that city was for most of my life. My company kind of moved me here, but it just feels so right. And I'm like, this is my home. This is where my kids are going to be born. And we're not moving. This is our forever place. And this is where my creative energy comes from. All my entrepreneurial ambitions, everything just kind of started clicking. So I'm so fascinated by location. And that's what I want to start with is why Hudson Valley, New York? How did you end up there?
Yeah, it's a little bit beyond rationality and reason.
Yeah.
I can speak to that. I mean, what I say is it feels like a magnet sort of pulled me across the country. I mean, I'd say Another thing I like to talk about, in addition to everything you said, is I like to talk about collapse. I like to talk about the ways in which the systems we're living under are unraveling, but also a new system and a new world is being midwifed through, and that we don't have to be afraid. We can be afraid, but we can also be a part of creating this new system. So I lived in Northern California, in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I gave birth in 2020, like I said. And in addition to the pandemic, which we all experienced in our own way, there were really intense wildfires happening in California. And that did something to me. Like, the element of fire is important in my life and my astrology. And for like 5 straight years, it's calmed down in recent years, although that's not true, just where I lived. But last year in LA, it was really bad. I it just I felt like I saw the writing on the wall as far as like the way the built world where I lived was not conducive to what the land wanted, which is the land wanted to burn, and climate was shifting, and I was like, okay, we gotta go. We gotta go. So some might call it a climate migration. I think, the fires were just like telling me something. So, and I love California so much, and I miss it the most in the winter, let me tell you. Um, so I turned my gaze with my partner. We turned our gaze towards the Northeast, which is where I was born, where I'm from. Well, yeah, where I was born, where I went to college. And um we didn't know where. We thought maybe Vermont. We took many trips out to be like, where? But every time we came out here, I just noticed my body, right, was just saying something to me. It's just like, this feels really good. This feels really exciting. I also feel a little nervous. Also, I'm someone who talks about seasonal living, and I felt like I didn't even have a deep understanding of what expressions of seasons could be in Northern California. Certainly there were seasonal expressions there, but like they're much more potent
Yeah.
in the Northeast right now. And so I remember we went out in all the different seasons, and I was like, "Whew, wow, this is like feeling like medicine for me." And then this property, just somehow I found like a link, a Zillow link, like a real estate link. And I had no idea about the county. I had no idea about the area. I knew there was a school for my daughter I was really excited about that was connected to a biodynamic farm. I studied biodynamics and Steiner and all this stuff back in graduate school, and then we just bought it. We just bought it. And we felt crazy. We felt like, what did we do?
I can relate so much to this
You
story. Yeah.
can? Oh
Yes,
my gosh,
yes.
it's so
Everything you're
nice.
saying, I'm like, yeah.
And I
Mhm.
felt really nuts. And when I would talk to people, they would reflect back how nuts I felt. They'd be like, "Are you sure?" And I'd be like, yes. So it's from buying it, it took us a year to actually figure out how to get here because we had no plan. Like, I had my business. My husband like worked in San Francisco. Like, we were just like, how
Yeah,
are we
that's
going to do
huge.
this? And eventually we just had to commit and figure it out as we go. And so we moved here 2.5 years ago. And we've just been trusting it, and it's all unfolded as it should. And I haven't really looked back. I mean, it was a really hard transition. I'll just tell you that. But um, there's something about trusting the land as the guide and not
Yeah.
having to have my brain figure out why is so relieving. Like, when people say like, "How'd you end up here?" And I'm like, the land called me, and either they understand it or they don't. But I'm just like, and then a lot of people here are like, I felt the same. So I think there are also like points on the earth that call you,
Yeah,
that call their
totally.
people in. And, there's the whole world of astrocartography and ley lines. And there's all these things where I just felt a deep trust. So here I am.
I love that you followed that nudge to go and do it because, yeah, you'll hear people in life in passing say, "Oh, I wish I could live here. I'm really drawn to this place." But not everyone has the courage to pack up their life, blow up their lifestyle
Yeah.
and head to that place. And Yeah, I can relate to that so much because I'm from New Jersey, but, like, my career took me all over the world. Like, my husband and I lived in the Middle East. He's from the Middle East, he's from Saudi. Then we lived in Sub-Saharan Africa for 5 years. Then we moved here. So we were on this path of, like, mobile living forever. We were just gonna keep being, like, wherever the company moved us. As soon as we got here, within, like, a couple weeks, we started searching for a house, put an offer on a house to buy in Norway. Neither of us are from here. Like, and we found this house, like, very similar to you, like, random link, walked in the door of this house, and we were like, this is where we're supposed to be." Like, that's it, you know? Like, we're I don't know, you just I'm getting, like, little goosebumps right now because you just, like, get these
Mhm.
little hints, like you said, the land is calling to you, and this is the place where I've had, like, these big transformational, like, kind of, like, spiritual awakenings and just really,
Mhm.
like, everything's clicking and aligning with who I'm meant to be in the world, and it happens here most of the time when I'm actually at this, like, geographical location. So it's really
Yeah.
interesting. I can so connect with that.
Yeah, something to pay attention to. Yeah, I also think about ancestors, like, my ancestors are not native to this area, they're native to Western Europe, but, like, this was a place they lived, you know? We have millions of ancestors, some of them lived literally on the Hudson River, you know, and I'm just like, okay, there's like a returning feeling, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and I think it's possible to have multiple places on earth that call us, but it's like to trust the call. And if you're able to make it happen, you know, not everyone can make it happen, but I was able to, you were able to. It's like it's it's like doing a deep service, I think, beyond what we may know in the moment.
Yeah. Completely agree. And so I wanna shift a little bit now to revillaging, if that's okay. I wanna
Always.
talk a little bit about revillaging because it's work that you're very passionate about, and I know for most of our listeners are moms who are a lot of times in the day-to-day just doing their own thing, very siloed. That's how life is kind of set up right now for us. It's hard to kind of re-get into this community type lifestyle of living. There is an awakening happening where more and more of us are trying to come together and gather, which is a lot of the work that you do. But I would love for you to just kind of describe like what is revillaging and like what are you doing right now to support that movement?
Yeah, I'm really happy revillaging is becoming popular. Um, I'm also concerned that it's like becoming almost like a word people don't fully. What am I trying to say? I love that people are talking about it, and I'm like, well, it's actually a really deep concept that is deeply challenging to all of us. So I hope we can like dive in deeper there. Sometimes I see like brands like using village as a part of their brands, and I'm like, are you the village or are you just a service people pay for saying you're the village? Okay, but that I probably said that too soon, but let's put that aside. Um, so like so many of us, I woke up to the fact that the village, you know, this concept of like having people around us that can support us, that uh we aren't meant to live in nuclear family um, or individualist ways alone, taking care of ourselves. And if we can't take care of ourselves or our families, something's wrong with us. That's hyper individualist culture. I really woke up to that in a painful way when I had a child in a very individualist cultural moment, aka lockdown. So that happens to a lot of us. Women, particularly when they have a child. It also happens when caregiving, like when someone is dying or very sick, like these moments of acute need for more support than we have. And is it touches all of us no matter our level of privilege. Which I also find very interesting. You know, you can like pay for a lot of support, but that yearning continues, that yearning
Yeah.
for something deeper. And then there's like this tongue in cheek saying, like, where did the village go? Like, it takes a village to raise a child. Where did the village go? You know? And so for many years, I've raged about like the village being gone. And then I heard this concept revillaging on another wonderful podcast called Medicine Stories, um, hosted by Amber Magnolia Hill. I think she was interviewing the founder of Innate Traditions. Michelle Garcia Saliga. And I was like, revillaging. Okay. So we are alive in this time. Those of us who live in a more Western industrialized society, there are some societies that have still have the village. And a lot of it has to do with like socioeconomics, right? But I'm talking to you in Bergen, Norway. You're talking to me in the Hudson Valley of New York. Like the predominant way of living is like alone in your home. And that is celebrated, right? You've made it. And so if we can acknowledge we're in this time and we're the ancestors of the future, like how can we work this concept, this sort of like ancestral ancient concept of the village into our modern life now, re-village? Because, I'm not going to live in the way my ancestors lived. I'm just not. Um, but I want to bring those concepts in. And so I'm very curious about all the different ways we can re-village. It's not one way, like, is it moving closer to other mamas? Is it buying houses all next to each other and knocking down the backyard fences? Is it building a commune? Is it
Mhm.
having like weekly potlucks? Is it like hosting regular women's circles, which is what I like to talk about? Is it like lingering at preschool drop off to ask everyone how they're doing? Like these are all ways in which we can unlearn and unravel the parts of ourselves that are attached to hyper-individualism, because I find that to re-village is to also face your own feelings about intimacy and introversion versus extroversion and privacy and fear of being betrayed. Like there's so much in
So
this
much.
concept of coming back together. So that's
Mhm.
why I'm like, you can be like, we're the village.com, but I'm like, but okay, that's really deep. That's actually a really deep process and it takes a long time. So I could keep going on and on, but that's what I'm interested in. And I
Yeah,
think it's a
absolutely.
lifelong practice.
When you're thinking of yeah, when we're speaking, there's some things coming up, like some examples that maybe I can just share too if people still wanna, like, visualize, like, what it could mean. Like, when I was drawn to creating mom and child retreats, it was because I did not have a village, as you mentioned. I was so isolated in a foreign country with a travel ban, and nobody from my family could see me through a whole pregnancy, and until I had a
Oh,
9-month-old baby, it was just my husband and I here. So it was like, that's
what
what lit
part?
a fire in me to be like, "Okay," and we just had our winter retreat with our moms and kids in upstate New York, and we rent out, this beautiful 2, like, it's like a 2 villa property, and we're all, like, cozying in together for the weekend, living in this villa with, like, 15 moms and, like, 20 kids, and everyone's, like, taking care of each other's kids and, like, "Oh, I have to go do this. I'm gonna go shower. Can you just kinda look after this one?" And we didn't know each other before. We came from all different parts of the states, from Washington State, California, Chicago. We all end up there and we're leaving as this little mini village, and we're on WhatsApp now just saying, like, "How do we, like, keep doing like, how do we keep this feeling going now that we're all over the place again?" And so, I feel like my work is bringing the village back a little bit, trying to bring some of those pieces, and I've also seen other people doing it more and more, like, being, an expat family, there's these world schooling hubs that have started to pop
Yeah.
up where people are invited to come stay for a few weeks and travel as a family, explore a new place as a family, and you're doing your own thing, but you're also kind of like staying in proximity to other families to have some of that community aspect with some gatherings. So that gives me hope that people are like actually taking tangible steps to make it happen. There's probably like so many more, like just women's circles in general, which we're now going to get into more, but yeah, those were just kind of coming up for me to share. And when we started our retreats, we didn't do women's circles. I didn't really know what women's circles were. And then I start getting this was in 2021. I start kind of getting these weird like curiosities about stuff and I don't really know why. And I started just feeling like women's circles need to be a part of what we're doing. And
Uh-huh.
now it's gotten to the point where I'm even feeling comfortable facilitating some, but so things
Right.
happen so quickly. But I wanna kinda talk with you because you are so much of an expert of holding space in this way, and there's a lot of, as you were getting at, like, maybe surface level understandings of what a women's circle is. So I want to really dive in deeper. Like, what is a women's circle and what goes into hosting one? Because there is a lot of energetic space that needs to be held and a lot of care and thoughtfulness. So I want to kind of like start there.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for the work that you do with your retreats and your spaces. That's just so wonderful that that exists and probably takes a lot of effort on your part with a young child. And I'm just so grateful you're doing that. So thank you for that. A women's circle. Yeah. A women's circle is a circle of women. And so the circle part is really important because if you think about the shape of a circle, it's inherently what one might call matriarchal or built inequality, as opposed to the shape of a triangle, which one might call patriarchal, which creates a framework of something at the top. And so if you think about like the way a classroom, a traditional classroom is shaped, like there's the professor, the teacher standing at the front, and then there are the students sitting in front, and there's like a hierarchy there. And I'm not making that wrong in that scenario. I just want to bring our attention to power literacy. So in the shape of a circle, there is a flattening of the power dynamic. Even if there's someone holding it, like there is inherent power in someone holding it. Um, it's a structure that settles the nervous system of anyone in it, and circles can be for anyone. I just particularly am interested in women circling. Um, it's a framework and technology that's as old as humanity. And so just sitting, or some people do it virtually, but I'll speak to the in-person experience. Just sitting or standing in a circle is just so powerful for our bodies to feel, and our emotional bodies, and our ancestral bodies to feel. And then it's a space that has an intention. So it's different from what you might be like a wine night or like a book club, although a book club could be like a circle, but there's like an intention there that is held by what I have a teacher named, oh my God, I'm so pregnant. What is her name? In Shinoda Bolin. She's a Jungian analyst, wrote The Millionth Circle, talks about the spiritual center of the circle. So there's a way in which the intention that you set, which could just be like women together sharing and hearing each other, is held not by one person. So everyone who's sitting or standing in the circle is at the edge, like holding the edge, so that they can relax into a space of equality or a sense of safety. And usually there is ritual, and that doesn't need to be ornate, just something that signifies its beginning and something that signifies its ending. And what happens in the space in between is up to the women attending and or the facilitator. And it's a space where, when well held, transformation can happen for women, anyone in it, but in a women's circle. And it's a space to be witnessed, where we can hear each other, particularly those of us who are socialized to see our value as like advice giving, or having to have like a matching story, like to just see that the greatest value we can give each other is actually just witnessing each other, hearing each
Yeah.
other, emptying ourselves of any sort of pre-notion of how we come across or our value, and just with a kind gaze and an open heart hearing. And I've just seen utter magic and transformation happen in circles that I've both facilitated and been a part of. They've transformed my life, and they can be really simple. And they can also be, complex and can go deep. But I teach a course called Circle Craft, where I'm really trying to encourage every circles in every town, every church basement, every yoga studio, every coffee shop after hours. Jean Shinoda Bolen writes in The Millionth Circle this idea that when we get to it's like a prophecy she sort of makes, which is when there are a million circles, when there are a million circles around the world, that will usher us into the post-patriarchal or post-dominant era. And that is my goal. If we can, if it can happen in my lifetime, beautiful. If not, it's still my goal.
Yeah.
Is to not make yeah, I sort of want to I want to like de-influence, that's not the word. I want to strip the branding of circle of being like a certain kind of woo or a certain kind of goddess outfit, although I'm into those things, you know, a certain kind of language, a certain kind of jargon, you know, because I think every woman deserves a circle in her life.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I love that you're bringing such a yeah, it's so simple. It's just gathering together and letting yourself be seen and accepted for one another and feeling like it's a safe space. And how amazing, like, I've just found it in my late 30s, but, like, yeah, it's incredible that more of us are being able to experience that, and, I got chills when you were talking about a million circles.
Yes,
That's yeah, I love
that's the
that.
thing. Yeah.
Is there anything that you do before you head into a circle? I know you could talk about it for so long, but, like, just preparing to hold that space, like, is there
Yeah.
anything that you are thoughtfully preparing before or during that really helps support the energy and for people to feel comfortable sharing?
Yes, energetic hygiene for a facilitator is deeply important. And you either you learn it either the hard way, like you end a circle and you're like, "Ah, I don't feel good and I'm all insecure and I need people to validate, was that good or not?" Or, you know, you can be taught and do it that way. Either way, it's fine. I learned the hard way. Um, yeah, to facilitate a circle is to enter into a ceremonial space. And I don't mean to say that for anyone who um, I want I want that to feel accessible, like life is a ceremony. But that to see it as, you know, like an honor and a privilege and a responsibility of space holding. And so, of course, things are going to come up for you as a facilitator, as a holder, of course. And that's normal because circle is a relational practice. It's going to, healing happens where, you know, things get mirrored by another woman, like things happen. That's okay. There's no such thing as a perfect circle. But there are things you can do before going into it that can help you. Like everyone knows themselves, but I always eat before. I always make sure the food is really grounding as opposed to like maybe something like sweet or caffeinated that'll take me up. I want something that brings me on the earth. So for me, that's like a protein or something. And I make sure I have water near me. I make sure that my clothes feel comfortable. Um, when I set up the space, I try to do it with like music or quiet so that I can really like visualize and put myself in their shoes. Like, what is it like to come into this space? And all of that is a deeply important practice because the ceremony begins when you start setting up and it ends when you finish cleaning up. And all of that matters to the experience of the participants in there. So I breathe. Sometimes I have nerves all the time. I'm like a nervous person. It's energy. So I like to like play some music and like shake or dance or something
Yeah.
to just like move it. And I find that it translates the energy from nervousness and anxiety into excitement, which helps me a lot. And then the most important thing is that I release attachment to the outcome, which is really hard because we care. But I just say like some little prayer in my heart, which is like, may this serve in the ways it's meant to, you know? And then at the end, I also say like, I believe this served in the ways it meant to, and I release this circle. I release it so that I don't ruminate, you know? And sometimes I do, but there's something to be learned about all of it. But to be in those practices like strengthens the muscle over time. to trust yourself, because it's really about trusting yourself. And you don't need to have some like ornate, years long certification, like anyone can do this. We all
Yep.
did this.
Yep.
And you learn through practice, um and we got this.
Mhm. Yeah, there is this inner knowing that, like, our ancestors did this before, and it's like we're relearning it, like, it just comes so naturally. Like, without having to, like you said, do any type of training, just it feels so natural to hold space like that and do a lot of the things you were mentioning with just, yeah, grounding down and shaking out any of that energy ahead and releasing the outcome. I'm sure there's some women listening who are also really curious to facilitate, and if we need more women doing this around the world, wherever you are listening, could you share a little bit about how you do that? Because can they connect with you and learn a little bit more of if they do feel like they need some guidance to just, like, get into it and how they can start facilitating in their community?
Yeah, so I teach a course called Circle Craft. I'm doing it live right now, but it's also available anytime. That, I just said anyone can do it. And I also think that once you start doing it, you see the areas where you need support, right? You see the areas where maybe insecurity comes up, or you felt wobbly, or perhaps rupture happens, or you want to refine those skills. So that's where I'm here to, I don't teach like a framework. I'm like, the circle you're doing, and we
Yeah,
need all of them. And
yeah.
I'm really supporting you and understand things like power literacy, things like how to navigate rupture, how to repair rupture, how energetic hygiene of a facilitator, how to design an invitation so that people really say yes and show up in a time of information overload and ghosting. These are things. So I take you through a flow at a slower pace than probably you want, but it is what you need to really just intentionally create a circle that is going to nourish you, because circle burnout is also a thing that happens because a lot of us, it's just such a cruel reality in our culture that those of us who are called to re-village are the ones that are like the most max capacity. Like mothers with babies are like, I want to do a circle.
Mhm.
And I'm like, totally. You should be aware of your capacity right now, but it's because you're aware and you're on fire for the cause. And
Yeah.
so that's another thing I really work with, is like right sizing your vision for the moment you're in. And then as life creates space, then you can grow it. So that's what I offer. They're also amazing people teaching women's circles, so many. And I would say just dive in. Cause I don't really believe in urgency, but I do believe in timeliness. And it just feels like we need these circles going. Um, and it's like a muscle. Like the more you lift the weight, the stronger the muscle gets. Like you really learn through iteration, through practice. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, come check out Circle Craft if you're interested.
You say that so like, just the way you describe everything is so beautiful, and you just put words you articulate a women's circle so well, because 'cause you've been doing it for so long. I do have one final question for you, and it's related to your daughter and your baby coming up. How are you if or when are you thinking about kind of getting them involved with rituals or circles? Is there anything that you're doing right now? I know she's still pretty young, but just curious.
No, she's in.
Okay, cool.
Something I really crave, and this is why I'm so impressed by what you're doing, is integration of our families, particularly our children, into ritual. There are some spaces where it's really beautiful to not have any children present. And there are some spaces, and there are some seasons of life where you need your baby on your breast, or your child, you have like a really attached child, or yeah, you want to share those values with your child, and not make it separate. And I've been in like experimentation phase. Like my child is 5.5, and like I've had some real, just like, we got to call it, this is not working, like gatherings and rituals. And then I've really just been blown away by how my daughter Atlas really comes through. Like, for instance, one of my practices in my community is I serve a Chinese tea ceremony once a month. After school drop off, people come to, we have like a barn that we've renovated into a gathering space, and we drink 3 bowls of pu'er tea in silence. And then we connect, and then we go about our day. It's 45 minutes. And Atlas loves to be there when she doesn't have school, and she assists me. Like, she is deep, she watches. I remember the first few times she would talk and we'd be like, shh, it's quiet. But she'd be like, I don't understand what you're talking about. But there was total acceptance in the space, right?
Yeah.
And now she gives tea ceremony to her stuffies and her dolls, and she'll practice,
Love that.
and then she'll drink tea with me in silence, but she also needs like yogurt on the side because she gets hungry. But like, I'm watching her muscle for ritual build in her own way. And then this past weekend, in this community here, I had my mother blessing, which was also deeply healing after being pregnant during a time when no one gathered. And, we invited her in. It was like 25 women in circle. And she was really nervous. And I said, yeah, you can just go with my mom, like, if you need help. And she dressed in her medieval velvet queen's costume, because that was the thing she thought was the most beautiful thing, and she wore her, like, sparkly Cinderella heels and a plastic crown on her head, and everyone was just like, "Wow, you're here," just like so many people in that circle were mothers, so they were just, like, loving her, and then she was really shy, so she, like, just laid down on a pillow under a blanket while we did the thing, and she knew not to interrupt, but she now knows to whisper and all that stuff. And then at the end, she said, I want to put something on the altar, because in the center we had a tray with flowers and a feather and a bowl of water to represent the elements and a candle. And my friend brought this like ridiculously huge crystal. And my daughter was like, I want to add to the altar. And I said, go for it. I said, pause, everyone, we're doing this. And I realized maybe a few years ago would have been like, oh, it has to go this way. But I was like, let's see what happens. And she put like little Legos and little plastic beads and like sweet little things in silence as we all gazed upon her, which I was like, is she going to melt down? She loved it. And it was the most special moment, because I wanted to honor her as a big sister to be. And I realized, wow, I've really grown in trusting my child to be just as attuned to the sacred as I am, and not trying to like control or curate her experience. And that felt like a major breakthrough for me. Also her age, she gets older, but yes, so that's where I'm at. And for this next child, I just hope to weave them in the same way that they see it as a part of our lives. And I'm just like, I'm another mom doing the thing with the box mac and cheese. But to have that also, in addition to the box mac and cheese, to have the ritual be there.
Yes. Yeah, I'm feeling first of all, that's so beautiful. I was getting teary-eyed. That's
Oh,
amazing. And yes, go mama. That's incredible that she's just leading herself in showing up in that way and feeling a part of it. And then yeah. That's just so sweet. I can just picture it, and it must have been such a sweet moment for you and for her.
yeah.
Um, and then I also just wanted to maybe close with, it's just so beautiful to know you're doing that with your community. And like the work I'm doing with the retreats, it's only a few times per year, but it's the same idea of family wellness and this understanding that it's not we go out into the world and work on ourselves and come back to the family, but it's incorporating the kids into it. It's incorporating the partners into it. And that idea of wellness doesn't need to be an individual thing, but it can be for the whole family, a well-being in a way, like you said, you show up in the world, like, this is what we do, like, this is how we live. And so it's really touching for me to hear that you're doing that with 25 people gathering and blessing you, preparing for your baby, and I'm trying to do it in my little way, so all of us are doing our things, and like you were touching on, if we're all doing our things, it's really gonna have this big, huge ripple effect in the world. So it's very
Yes.
interesting.
It's deeply important. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a cosmic assignment. It's like just and that feels different from like the to-dos of our day.
Yeah.
There's a different feeling, and that's what I try to encourage all of us to tap into is like it's as important as drinking water and working out and packing backpacks and making lunches, but it also has a different energy, which is like dharmic, like a cosmic assignment, like a deep necessity that has important and transformational impact.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. All right, Becca. Well, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this when you are welcoming a baby in a couple weeks ahead from now. Before we close, just do you want to share where people can connect with you? Where do you want people to go to learn more about you and connect?
Yeah, well, you're a podcast listener, so I have a podcast called Belonging. There are several Belonging podcasts at this point, but it's the one that looks kind of it has like a picture of antlers.
It's
You'll
very
know.
earthy. I
Earthly.
I'll put the link in the show notes so they can find it
Oh,
easily.
thanks. And then, yeah, I'm BeccaPiastrelli.com. If you put some version of that, the internet finds me. I have a Substack, which, if you just look up Becca Piastrelli, it's called How We Come Back.
Yeah.
But if you look up Becca Piastrelli on Substack, you can sign up there.
Highly recommend. It's very good.
Thank you. So nice of you.
All right. Well, thank you again for being here and sending lots of blessings and love your way as you welcome new baby.
Thank you.